It is a very, very dark slope to go down when you have people who are not elected making those kinds of choices over people's lives.
I'm just not interested in getting into arguments about how our constitutional settlement works.
Helen's point is that those people that you're rightly criticising are exactly the same as somebody with a gender recognition certificate who've lived as a woman for 25 years, who on their death certificate will have woman. She's saying, that's the point here, those people are identical.
I'm saying they're both men. Men with pieces of paper and no pieces of paper are both men.
Well, hello there. I'm Michelle Dewberry, the host of Dubes & Co. What a day it has been for women across the country. What am I talking about? The Supreme Court's ruling of the question, what is a woman?
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
There is a lot to be depressed about in this country, but finally, ladies and gents, something to be relieved about. Yes, it is indeed official. I'm talking, of course, about the UK Supreme Court. It has today given clarity on things that most people knew all along, that sex matters, that sex is biological, and that a woman is an adult human female. But why was all this necessary, I hear you cry? What's the big deal, Michelle, given that only a minuscule amount of people are trans? Well, it's this.
Transphobic, yes or no?
Look, is it transphobic? Look, I don't even know how to start answering these questions.
A woman can have a penis.
Look, I don't think we can conduct this debate with,
Sorry, have I offended you in some way?
No, it's just... I just...
Absolutely embarrassing, because for a very long time now, people seem to have lost their minds. They have been captured by an extreme trans ideology, an ideology which I would say is sought to undermine basic biological reality and, crucially, erode women's rights. Language has been contorted and distorted. Us women have been reduced to people who menstruate, chest feeders, and those with a cervix. But don't forget, of course, David Lammy even thinks that men can grow one of those. We've, of course, been told that we've got to share our single-sex spaces with any man who simply utters the magical words, "I identify as a woman." Yet we women, we've been abused and threatened and heckled and cancelled. We've lost our jobs and our crime believing in the truth and wanting to protect women and girls. We've, along the way, had male crimes assigned to us, and our children have been encouraged to what I would say follow and believe fiction. The list goes on. We've been told we must put up and we must shut up. But yet today, women were not silent.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Oh yes, they sang and they roared and they brought tears to my eyes. Because if you ask me, they've been vindicated. As we've always said, truth matters, sex matters. And in my opinion today, that has finally been recognised. So, too, for Women's Scotland, I say thank you. And to all of the other women who have fought and suffered, and you know who you are, I say it again, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, as a woman and as a mummy, thank you. And to the politicians, the institutions, the organisations, and all of the media who have allowed all of this to become so absurd, I simply say this, shame on you. I need to be clear again that this is not even just about, in some cases, these pieces of paper. If you watch this show regularly, you will know that at my gym, the gym that I used to attend, Virgin Active, in case you're wondering, their policy was that any member could use the changing room of the gender that they most identified with. That was literally their policy. No pieces of paper required. This is absolutely absurd. Louisa just got in touch and said, I'm welling up and I'm not even a sentimental person. Unless you're a woman, you cannot fully understand the ramifications of all of this. She says, we are living in a society where rights that we have long since fought for were under threat. She says that she feels like women have been persecuted. A lot of trans people, I'm going to play you a clip in a second, because the other side of this is a lot of trans people that actually would say that they're very disappointed with this ruling today. Let's just take a listen at someone that was on the channel a little bit earlier on today.
Now, this affects me personally, directly, but you know, in my social life, in my general life, people don't call me a woman. They don't say, look, Frida, you're a woman. They just treat me as a human being. We don't communicate like that. The reason people are asking what is a woman all the time, and they're reducing women's bodies to, you know, biology all the time, and it's a reductive argument. What it does is it removes the humanity from the argument. You only have to watch when somebody brings a bit of light to this argument and maybe questions the motivations of J.K. Rowling or Maya Forstadt, whoever it is, they get piled on so hard on social media that it's almost unbearable. So there is no balance here. The power is with those lobby groups. They're not working on behalf of women. We know that because women's groups don't support them, because they know that institutional and systemic misogyny isn't coming from trans women, and there are no prizes for women at the end of the gender critical movement because it doesn't actually support feminism. It rejects feminism.
You want to respond to that, Aaron?
Well, I think, look, first of all, the idea that it's whataboutery to say that the nature of our constitutional system is at stake here, I think is absurd. Secondly, the gender recognition certificate as a piece of documentation comes about from law made in 2004. The Equality Act was so poorly drafted that it's basically, I think, going to make redundant a piece of legislation which precedes it. That's how stupid this is. To be clear, those gender recognition certificates are from 2004, 6 years prior to the Equality Act. This whole thing about our rights were under threat, therefore this court has made this decision, that's a good thing. Let's go back to the United States, the overturning of Roe versus Wade. The problem there is you have, again, unelected legislators, a court who nobody votes for, determining whether or not women can have abortions. It is a very, very dark slope to go down when you have people who are not elected making those kinds of choices over people's lives. And as a matter of principle, I think it should be opposed.
I'm just not interested in getting into arguments about how our constitutional settlement works on a day when I want to focus on the fact that we have restored the 1975, which predates the Gender Recognition Act, the 1975 Sex Discrimination Act, which was ported over into the 2010 Equality Act. So if we're going to play what came first, the Sex Discrimination Act came first. Nobody intended the Gender Recognition Act to destroy the protections that were there in the Sex Discrimination Act, and yet they did, and now that has been fixed.
Yol, one of my viewers, says, Michelle, I feel emotional. This is all a big deal, but the very fact, whatever you think to the Supreme Court, the fact that we needed the Supreme Court to tell us what most of us already knew in the first place is unbelievable and sad. Well, I would say it's also a reflection on the absolute cowardice, the absurdity and the embarrassment of our political class. And not just the political class, by the way, the institutions in this country, much of the media. If I see one more time an actual male criminal that is pictured in a newspaper for being, I don't know, a paedophile, a rapist or whatever, and the headline says a woman has been charged with X, Y, Z, and you scream at the telly, that is not a woman.
Hold
you
on,
know
Michelle,
it's not.
Those people don't have gender recognition certificates. And this is really key.
I'm talking about the media now, gaslighting people.
No. But Helen's point is that those people that you're rightly criticising are exactly the same as somebody with a gender recognition certificate who've lived as a woman for 25 years, who on their death certificate will have woman. She's saying, that's the point here, those people are identical.
I'm saying they're both men. Men with pieces of paper and men without pieces of paper are both men. And that's what the Supreme Court said, the Equality Act says too. It's biological reality. It doesn't matter when a man starts to say he's a woman, whether he did it yesterday, whether he did 10 years ago, whether he did 20 years ago, he's still a man. That's just a fact. And it's not denying anybody's humanity to say that. Half of humanity is men.
I just don't think it's common sense.
If I could just come in here, Michelle.
You mean it comes
yes.
Charlie Downs swooping in
I
there.
do just want to take a step back here, because I think what we need to remember is this ruling today refers specifically to the Equality Act 2010, and that's obviously already come up today. But actually, I would say that the Equality Act 2010 needs to go in its entirety, because it's at the root of so many problems that we face in our society today. And, for example, the Birmingham bin strikes. A equal pay dispute lies at the root of that, where women who were working public sector jobs disputed that they were not being paid equally to their male counterparts, and that meant that the bin workers who are currently on strike had their pays cut in order to pay for this equal pay dispute. It's also at the root of the public sector equality duty, which is now manifesting itself in this kind of two-tier system that we see in Britain, where in the name of equality, people are discriminated against on the basis of their race, if they're white, their sex, if they're male, and their faith, if they're Christian. And so I think that the whole idea that, it's kind of just like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, this ruling, because unless the Equality Act itself and the entire doctrine that emerges out of is scrapped, I just don't know whether we're actually going to, in the long run, see any real improvement in the way we think about identity in the law in this country.
Listen, you guys are utopians. I'm not sure I agree with you about your utopia, but anyway, you seem to think that we can't do anything until we can do everything. There was a specific problem that needed fixing, and today it was fixed. I'll just finish the sentence. So there was a specific problem, it needed fixing, it was fixed. Now we can go out and we can make sure that the guidance, the rules, the policies no longer pretend that men can be women, and that's great. And yes, there are a million other problems out there too, but this one has been fixed. And today, the very day that judgment was handed down, you want to be talking about Birmingham bin strikes and the Equality Act and probably the Human Rights Act too and Supreme Court in America and so on. No, I'm going to stop and I'm going to say there was a great judgment today. That judgment was a judgment that enshrined biological reality over legal fictions, and that is good for everybody.
Oh, I feel better for getting that off my chest. What do you think to it all? Comment in all the usual ways. And don't forget, you can watch me, Michelle Dewberry, on Dewbs & Co. every weeknight from 6 till 7, only on GB News.